Derech Eretz.
As a student in the mid-1980s, Andrea Bolnick was actively involved in anti-apartheid work and was an active member of an anti-apartheid youth movement. Through volunteer work, she was exposed to the work of Slum Shack Dwellers International. She immediately saw the vulnerability of shack dwellers to fires, floods, disease, and eviction. Wanting to make a difference, Andrea established Ikhayalami.
I grew up in a privileged environment, but I was always taught by my parents to respect all people equally, and in fact respect people who were less privileged than I, even more so. I was a very sensitive child, and if one has a sense of humanity, one has to stand against injustices. And I guess that stems from also my background, being Jewish and coming from a family history of persecution. Our family came from Russia, and they were persecuted by the Russians, they were persecuted by the Germans, and even going further back in history, there's just been a whole series of oppression and persecution purely for the fact of being different. And that realization that my parents instilled in us was to say that if other people are being disrespectful for others and being prejudiced against others, one has the obligation to stand up against oppression, even if it's against others. Because if other people are oppressed and you're not doing anything about it, you're negating your own human decency. I've always had an interest in social justice and also an interest in design and spatial planning. So what I realized is that perhaps what one needs to do is to look at ways in which people who live in informal settlements have resolved this problem. Because there are probably in the region of currently about 3 million households in South Africa who live informally. And they've come up with a solution of how to deal with this challenge. In about 2005, I started doing research into alternative forms of shelter provision, looking to see the ingenuity that already exists in informal settlements, working with shack dwellers, and then coming up with a number of prototypes to see how we could design something that, or how I could design something that is quick to build, easy to transport, fire and flood resistant, very adaptable to expansion, and durable, and very importantly affordable. In 2006 I set up Ikhayalami, which means my home in Xhosa and Zulu. At the heart of Ikhayalami's way of thinking is to view informality and urban poverty as an emergency.
We were experiencing problems because we are living in a dense place. So we are experiencing like fires, shack fires, like when it's in winter, when it's raining, we were experiencing floods. So we wanted to open up some space. The only way we can do it, it was due to blocking.
Blocking out is a reshaping of the structures, because we realized that there is a density in our informal settlement. Then we were asking for the government for the land so that we can build our structures nicely. But the government said always there is no land. So we're just starting designing our settlement. We see that there is a space in our area, but it's just that the way of we building our structures is not according to the lines.
So one aspect is the clear pathways. Another one is to create public open spaces that are also safer for the community, places where children can actually play. And also one of the huge powers of reblocking is that it actually holds government to account to provide the services that they're meant to provide to communities. So in a sense, that in itself also vastly improves people's quality of life while they wait for the government subsidy.
The way we are living in those shacks in our communities, if you don't involve the community, then you won't succeed in anything that you are trying to do in the community. So it is very crucial that you involve the community, make sure that the communication, whoever is going to work in that particular community must involve the community so that the project can be successful.
So this is the first prototype, in fact, the first in-situ prototype that was built. And in fact, Pumezo and I, when we first met in 2009 in Sheffield Road, and we built the framework for the first double story, most of the people in the community and in the settlement were saying they didn't want a double story. And Pumezo was the one person that kept on saying, I want a double story, and I want a double story in my home.
The reason to build the prototype like this, a double story one, the city said there is no land, so we just want to show the government that there is enough land in our informal settlement. If we can just build the double story, then we create more spaces on the ground. The community was very interested in this kind of double story. So we would like to take this initiative forward so that we can show the government that also we as a community together with an NGO, we can do our life, we can change our lives better.
Pumezo is a great asset for informal settlement upgrading, because not only is he a very strong leader in his own community, but he's also a leader of a social movement. So the concept of what gets done here gets translated and gets exposed to many more settlements and many more leaders.
Since I've met Andy, 2009, she's like my sister, she's like my mother, she's like everything to me, because she's a kind person. She has the effort of doing things. She doesn't give up so quickly. She's a strong person.
If it was somebody else, someone would have lost interest in our community long time ago because of these robbery incidents that happened there, because we were robbed 4 times, but Andy never ceased to leave us. He was always trying to get to help the community of PD. So she's got a very strong personality.
If the community is at the helm and leading the project, then there's a chance of it being sustainable long term, and people actually believing in it and believing that it's theirs. One of the key functions that Ikhayalami plays is in that translation from the formal world, from whoever we deal with, the architects, the engineers, the city planners, is to work with the community and to be the interface with the community. Ultimately, it's their home, it's their life, and it's got to be something that they will value and want to keep in the way that it was created and in their vision. And if that's done, then more communities will actually call for this and say this is how they would like to replicate, and how this project can then expand.
There's a bright future here. I just have imagined when the whole settlement is already done. It's gonna change our kids' life and also our lives. Once we finish this kind of project, and the safety is gonna be good, and no more floods, no more fire. We're gonna stay safer than it was before.
So the term Derech Eretz, in Hebrew, Derech is the path, and I would say that it's my path in life. So if you want to ask me what my path in life is to work in this sector and to contribute as much as I can to the alleviation of poverty and to improve people's lives.